Hi everyone, Dylan here of Harmonic Design. I'm the developer and creator of HD Quiz, a fairly popular quiz building plugin for WordPress. I figured I'd take the time to record this video just to show you just how easy it is to build your first quiz and get started. And we can also use this as a sort of deep dive into some of the various features and settings and options that HD Quiz has, because it is very powerful and you can do a lot of customizations with it. So hopefully we can figure out how all these settings and options interact with each other and give you the power to customize your quizzes to work the best for you in your use case. So before I get into it, this video is probably going to end up being a longer video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually timestamp the video in the description. So, if what I'm talking about at the moment isn't relevant to what you want or what you need, you can just skip ahead in the video, use the timestamp to get to a feature that you're actually interested in learning about. So with that, let's jump right in. So this page that you see right here on the screen is the main HD Quiz page. This is the sort of home base for HD Quiz where you can add and manage your quizzes settings, as well as add and manage your questions. However, since this is a brand new install of HD Quiz, let's actually check out the About and Options page. So this page here, everything on here is completely optional. You never need to go to this page unless you need to. Everything here is optional, and HD Quiz will work just fine without ever changing any of these settings. However, if you need some of the extra functionality, if you need that kind of advanced settings, then this page is going to be great for you. So the first section here is for social sharing, things like Facebook and Twitter. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of why something like this is needed, but just to kind of broad strokes it, by default, there's no way for Facebook to know the results of a quiz. So if you share a quiz using HD Quiz without using an app ID, then Facebook will just share the name of the quiz and the page just as if it was a normal page. It won't be able to share the results. However, if you enter an app ID for Facebook in here, then you're kind of granting HD Quiz permission to directly communicate to Facebook so that we can send them the custom content. In our case, the custom content being the score. So for instance, I got 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 or whatever that is. Creating the app ID should be fairly straightforward. You just need to go to developer.facebook.com, sign up, it's free, follow their kind of guidelines tutorial, and you'll get your app ID running in no time. And also just want to reiterate that it's completely optional. You don't need this if you don't want to use it, but it's there if you want to kind of upgrade your Facebook sharing functionality to the next level. Next here is your Twitter handle. Once again, optional, but if you have a Twitter account, you can enter your username here. And then anytime someone shares your quiz on HD Quiz, whenever someone shares your quiz on Twitter, your account will get mentioned. So it's just a really easy way to kind of track how many people are sharing your quizzes on Twitter. This next section here is for translation. So for instance, I'm Canadian, and even though I'm Canadian, I regrettably only speak English. My French is just very poor. HD Quiz, however, is pretty popular in a lot of non-English languages. If you're one of those users and your target base is in a non-English speaking country, I got you covered. Using these settings here, you can actually rename most of the things that HD Quiz would have publicly facing. So for instance, you can rename the Finish button to whatever Finnish is in your language. You can rename the Next button, which is used for pagination. You can rename Results, and you can rename the Quiz Start button. And the Quiz Start button is only needed if you're using the timer feature. Next here, we have a setting that basically determines who's allowed to add quizzes and questions and who isn't. By default, only the administrator and the editor of your website will be able to add new quizzes and questions. However, some of you have really big blogs and you have lots and lots of authors. So if you find yourself in that situation and you want to allow your authors to be able to add questions and stuff like that as well, you can enable this, and then your authors will be able to make as many quizzes as they want. And then finally here we have the add set code. So for example, if you were to copy and paste your Google AdWords code in here, then that code will be used after every fifth question. Every fifth question, HD Quiz will use the code. Why every fifth question and not after every question? It's basically to protect you. A lot of ad services such as Google AdWords, they basically have a terms of service that determines how many times you're allowed to show an ad on a single page, and it's based off of how much content is on the page. So if you were to show your ad after every question, there's a good chance that you'll actually get banned or that your account will get suspended. So by forcing it to be every fifth question, I'm helping to protect you so that your account doesn't get in the bad graces of whatever advertising platform you're using. But once again, all of these features are completely optional. You don't need to use them at all. So in fact, I'm not even going to change any of these settings. I'm going to leave everything as default. So now let's go back to the main HD quiz page, the initial page that we started at. So this is the page we can start making a new quiz. So let's add our first quiz. So I'm going to create a quiz called animals. So I type in animals, I press enter. And now we've added the animals quiz. So I can select the quiz to now edit it and add questions. We can see the quiz short code here, which I'll get into a bit later, or we can add more quizzes. So let's add a quiz called space. Maybe we can add a quiz about, I don't know, cars. So it's very easy to add as many quizzes as you want and need. So let's actually use the animals quiz. So I'm going to select the animals quiz. And now here we are on the quiz edit page. So we got a quick link here to go back to all the quizzes. We got the name of the quiz we're currently editing. We got a quick button to add questions. We got a button here to save the quiz settings. So for instance, when we edit the settings, we can save the settings, or also needed if we change the order of the questions, which we'll get into in a bit. And we got the quiz short code here again. So if you don't know what a short code is kind of like a little piece of code that looks like this that WordPress uses. And you can paste that code onto any page or post, and WordPress will replace that code with the quiz. If you're using Gutenberg, there's actually a custom Gutenberg block built right into HD Quiz. So you can just use the HD Quiz block to add quizzes, no problem. But if you're using the classical editor or a page builder like Elementor or something like that, you can actually just copy and paste the short code here onto whatever page or post you want, and your website will magically show the quiz. So when you add new questions, questions will appear here. And you can click quiz settings to see and edit the quiz settings. So I'll actually go into more depth onto what each of these settings and options do in a bit. I want to add a few more questions first, but just to broad strokes it right now, we have all these tabs here. So this first tab is the results tab, which is where you can set the pass percentage and the pass and fail text. We got marking, which basically determines when the quiz will show you what questions you got right or which questions you got wrong, and allows you to customize that. We have the timer, which is a timer for either the full quiz or even a per question timer. And then we have some advanced options such as enabling or disabling sharing, whether you to set random question orders and stuff like that. Once again, I'll get into the more specifics of what each of these options and settings do once we've created a few questions. So let's actually add our first question. So I'm going to click on add new question. And here we are on the adding question page. So right here we have enter question. So I'm going to type in, what is the fastest land animal? And now we have the question type. So by default, the question type is multiple choice text-based answers. So for instance, I could type in cheetah, horse, wolf, whatever, and they would show up as a multiple choice question, and I would just select whatever answer was the right answer. Another type is images. So if I use this, then instead of just having, horse, wolf, whatever, cheetah, I can also add pictures of a horse or a picture of a cheetah, and we could set that here as well. The third, and this is a brand new question type in HD Quiz 1.8, is text-based answers, which is basically the user needs to actually type in their answer. So let's actually use this. So it's not case sensitive. So these answers aren't case sensitive. So it doesn't matter. So I'm going to type in cheetah. Cheetah is the fastest animal. So it doesn't matter whether the user capitalizes the C or not. It's still going to count. So the correct answer is cheetah. However, cheetah is a hard word to spell. Maybe your quiz is for children. So you might want to add in something like that. A purposeful misspelling, just so that, you know, to make it a bit easier for your users. So for instance, even if the user accidentally spells cheetah wrong, it's still going to be counted as correct. So that's it. So let's just save the question. Done. We've saved this question. Let's add a new question. So I'm going to click add a new question. And let's add, what is the largest animal? So for this question, let's use the multiple choice image. So let's go elephant, giant squid, a blue whale, and a giraffe. So these are the 4 answers we can have. And by the way, you can have up to 10 answers. Each question can have up to 10 answers. So now that we've added our answers, let's set images. So in order to save time, I actually uploaded some images ahead of time so that we don't have to wait for them to upload. So let's start selecting. So the first one was elephant. So I'm going to select this set image. Giant squid, blue whale, and giraffe. So there we go. We now got thumbnails of each of these. Now, lastly, what we need to do is we need to select which of these is the right answer. So for us, the blue whale is the right answer. And that's it. Let's save question. Now let's add a third question. What would be a good one? What animal was domesticated from wolves? So we got cats. We got dogs, we got, I don't know, hamsters, and we got, I don't know, let's just go with horses or something. And of course, the correct answer is the dog. Save. That's it. So we've just added 3 questions to a quiz. Now let's actually add this quiz to a, to a poster page. So I'm going to take this original shortcode, I'm going to copy it. I'm now going to go to post, add new, and you can add this to a post or a page or anything you want. So I'm going to name the page the animal quiz, and I'm just going to paste in that shortcode. So that's the shortcode we just pasted in. I'm going to publish. Let's take a look. So here we are. This is what the quiz looks like. So the first question, what's the fastest land animal? And that's, you know, you got to type in your answer. What's the largest land animal? So as you can see, we've got an image we can select. And what animal was domesticated from wolves? A simple multiple choice. It's that simple. That's how easy it is to build a, you know, a beautiful looking quiz. But I'm not satisfied yet. Now that we've got a simple quiz, let's actually customize and tweak some of the settings and options to just take the quiz to a whole new level. So let's go back to our HD quiz page. So I'm going to click HD quiz. Let's go back to animals and let's start actually changing some settings here. So let's edit this first one. So this was the text-based answer where the user needs to type in their answer. So this is an interesting one where we can actually use the extra tab here to add some cool new features. So for instance, let's set a tooltip. So the fastest land animal is not the fastest, should probably learn how to spell. It's not the fastest one of the sky. So if you're wondering what a tooltip is, this right here is a tooltip. This little pop-up is an example of what a tooltip is. So you can add tooltips to all of your questions. You might want to do it to provide a hint to your users, give them a little hint. You might want to use it to add extra instructions or context, or many other reasons. Next is the question featured image. And what the question featured image does is right here above the question, it'll show that image as a featured image. So let's set an example. So let's use Megatron from Beast Wars. we're talking about animals. Let's set Megatron. So now, before the quiz starts, before the question shows, we'll have this featured image. And lastly, we have text that appears if the user got the question wrong. So for instance, the correct answer is cheetah, but maybe I enter in the wrong answer and I don't, enter cheetah. So what we can do is we can actually have custom text that appears if the user got the answer wrong. So for example, the cheetah is the fastest land animal and can run up to speeds of 40 kilometers per hour. I actually have no idea if that's true. I have no idea how fast they can run. Just an example. I think I need to watch a bit more Animal Planet. So what we've done now is we've added a tooltip, we've added a featured image, and we've added some custom text if the user gets the question wrong. So let's save. So now if we go back to our quiz, let's take a look at how that works. So here you can see we have the featured image that appears above the question. Let's get the answer. Oh, here we have the tooltip. So that's the tooltip we added. And let's get the answer wrong. Let's say horse. So we'll type in horse, which is the wrong answer. Here we'll say the largest is the blue whale, which is the right answer. And we'll say dogs. Let's click finish. Boom, it automatically scrolls up to the top, tells us our score, 2 out of 3, gives us options to share on social media. And it's also marked our questions as right or wrong. So here it says horse is wrong, and there's that extra text we entered. If you keep scrolling down, we said blue whale, and it says, yep, blue whale's right, highlighted in green. And same with dogs. So now let's take a look at some of the quiz settings. So we looked at some of the question settings. Let's take a look at some of the quiz settings. So here's the quiz settings. So here's the results tab. So the pass percentage. So by default, you need at least 70% of the questions right in order to be considered passed. But you could set this to 100% or 50% or whatever you want. We'll leave it at 70% for this. And now we have custom quiz pass and custom quiz fail text. So as you can see, by default, it just says results 2 out of 3. There's no text or content that appears here. But we can actually add custom content here if we wanted, including images, links, anything. So let's go a lion. If you pass the test, we'll show you an image of a lion, and we'll say, you are awesome. If you fail, we'll show a naked mole rat. We'll say, go to the zoo, because you need to learn more. And if you want, you could even set, links or something like that. So if you have another article you've written about the topic, you can link to that article in the fail text so that if users fail, they can, read up and brush up on their knowledge. Next, we have the marking tab. So by default, highlight correct or incorrect answers on completion is enabled by default. So as you can see, if you go here back to the quiz, it tells us here that that horse is wrong. Horse wasn't the right answer. What it didn't, and it tells us here that blue whale was the right answer because that's what we got it right. But you'll notice that even though we got the answer wrong, it didn't tell us what the right answer was. If you wanted to go the extra step and also let the user know what the right answer was, then enable this. So now that this is enabled, if I were to retake this quiz and say horse, it'll say that I got horse wrong, but it'll also go the extra step and let us know that the correct answer was cheetah. This option here immediately marks answers as correct or incorrect. So what that does is you'll notice that when I did the quiz, I actually had to finish and submit the quiz in order to see what answers I got right or wrong. If I enable this, then it'll actually let me know what answers I got right or wrong as soon as I make as soon as I make a selection. Stop users from changing their answers is basically just making it so locking in their answer. So once they select an answer, they can't change their mind. Always show the incorrect answer text. So the incorrect answer text is this right here. So by default, this text will only appear if you get the answer wrong. If I entered in cheetah instead of horse, the question would have been marked as correct, and this text wouldn't have appeared. However, if I enable this, then this text will appear even if I get the answer right. So you can use it as like an interesting factoid, kind of like what I'm doing here, just an interesting factoid about the question. Next we have the timer. So the timer by default is for the whole quiz. So for instance, if, and it's by seconds. So if I were to type in 180, that would be 3 minutes. That would give you 3 entire whole minutes in order to complete the quiz. If you don't complete the quiz in time, then the quiz submits and any question you didn't answer gets marked as incorrect. A new feature starting in HD Quiz 1.8 is you can also have a timer per question. So for instance, if I set this to 15 and set this to per question, then we only have 15 seconds per question to answer. If you don't answer the question in time, that answer gets disabled and you have to move on to the next question. Next is advanced. So by default, you can share quiz results. That's enabled by default. For instance, maybe you have more of a professional website, more for students, and you don't want to enable the ability to share results. You can disable that if you want. Next is the quiz position. By default, the results position. By default, the results are above the quiz, but you can switch it to below the quiz if you want. I do, however, recommend leaving it above the quiz, especially if you have any of these options enabled. The reason for that is because when you have the results above the quiz, then when you complete the quiz, the site automatically scrolls to the top, and it just gives a bit more visual feedback to let users know that they can actually look at their answers to see what they got right or wrong. Here we have randomization options. So you can randomize the question order. So, for instance, right now, this is the first question. If I randomize it, then every single time the quiz loads, it'll be in a different order. What else you can do, however, is randomize the answer order. So for example, the first answer, elephant, giant squid, blue whale, giraffe. If I randomize the answers, then these will be in a different order every single time. Next is the use pool of questions, which is a super cool and powerful feature. Let's imagine you have a quiz with 100 questions. That's a really, really big quiz, and most users aren't going to want to take the time to answer a quiz that large. If you were to, for example, set this to 20, then what will happen is every single time the quiz loads, HD Quiz will randomly grab 20 out of those 100 questions and put them in a random order. So if you have enough questions and if you're using the randomized answer order option, you're pretty much creating a completely unique quiz every single time the page loads. So it's a really cool and advanced feature. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you have a chance. The last thing I want to go over just before I save is I want to go back to questions. Let's say that you're not using the random question orders. Well, this is the order that the questions appear, but you can actually drag and drop to change the order. So for instance, right now, the first question is this one right here. What is the fastest land animal? But I can change that to be the second question. See, I can just drag and drop. And now if I save the quiz, that will be the new order. So let's go back to the quiz. Let's refresh the page and take a look at what it looks like. So because we're using the timer feature, we now have this start quiz button. And that's needed so that the timer doesn't start before the user actually has a time to load the page and stuff like that. So because we're using a timer, we now need to have a start quiz button. So let's click start quiz. And here we go. So as you can see, the answers are in a completely different order than they were before. And the questions even in a different order, because remember, we set this as the second question. You'll also notice that because we're setting to 15 seconds per question, I can't answer any of these other questions. I can only answer the current active question. Won't let me actually select these. So I'm just going to restart just to go back to the beginning. So let's start question. So once again, it won't let me actually type an answer on that because this is the question we're editing. We only got 15 seconds per question. Blue whale. It's automatically marked the question as correct and the timer restarted. Even though I'm spelling this wrong, remember, we actually allowed for the misspelling of this. So I'm going to type in cheetah and it's got it right. And because we enabled the always show the incorrect text, it showed up anyways. And now the third one, let's get it wrong. Let's say cats. Nope, cats is wrong. 2 out of 3, which isn't 70%. Showed us the photo of the naked mole rat. Says the custom text, go to the zoo. We disabled sharing, so the sharing option isn't working anymore. And we can scroll down and we can see what answers we got right and which we got wrong. So blue whale, we got right. Cheetah, we got right. This we got wrong. We selected cats, which is wrong, but it went the extra step and showed us that dogs is the right answer. So I hope that this video kind of helps clear up some of the settings and options that HD Quiz has, while also showing you just how powerful and robust HD Quiz is and how many different things you can do and create with it. I hope you have a lot of fun building custom quizzes, and always reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out if you need help or support. You can always find me on the official HD Quiz support page, the link down in the description. And you can also find me on harmonicdesign.ca, and I got a dedicated HD Quiz support forum there that you can always reach me at if you have any questions, feature requests, anything like that. So I hope you're all staying safe during this health crisis that's going on right now, unless you're watching this in the future, and hopefully the crisis is over. And yeah, have a good one.